Hi everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I've created some goodie bags for Halloween using the Not So Spooky stamp set. These are really simple to make, and you can also personalize them and include a message to the parents to show who gave the treats out. To start off, I have cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock in half, so it's 4 1/4 wide by 11, and then I've scored some places on here. So I'm just going to use my ruler to kind of show you where I scored. So the first place is at 3/4 of an inch, and the second one is at 5 inches. Once I have those two scored, I'll go ahead and flip this around and place that back in, and then I'll score it at 4 1/4 inches. Once everything is scored, I'll go ahead and fold this up and show you how this works. So you have a top flap, and then you have about an 1 3/4 inch base to put your candies in. The front of the goodie bag holder is the 4 1/4 inch side, and this is where I'm doing my stamping. So I've put a bunch of my stamps from the Not So Spooky stamp set onto my block, and I have just inked those up with smoke ink. On my spider, it already had some black ink on it and also my Happy Halloween, so that ink also transferred on. So if you start with a brand new stamp, you'll just get really clean stamping, but I kind of like how it's kind of variegated. So I'm going to stamp all over this front panel, and then once I'm done, I'll do some die cutting. To die cut my window, I'm using the stitched ovals, and they come in different sizes. This is the second size up from the smallest, and it has the stitch mark on both sides of the cutting line. So I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball this to kind of sit left of this front panel, and I'll go ahead and run this through my die cut machine. Once I have my window cut, I also have a secondary piece that I can use for another tag. And I just realized for this demonstration that I grabbed another one of my cards that I was making, so this one's quite a bit cleaner. So the next thing I want to do is to add a hole to where the bag will come through at the top. So I'm on the other end, and I'm putting the die to where I'll be using the fold mark. So I'm going to get my plates out here, and I'll show you how to line this up to where you can just partially cut. So there's a groove on the plates, and I want that fold mark to sit at the top groove. And then I'll go ahead and place my second plate over the top. You could use some washi tape to hold your paper or your cardstock down in place, but go ahead and line those up, and I'll show you to where at that top groove is where that fold mark is, and that will just partially cut. So now that I've cut my hole in the top, I have put my bag of candy through that hole. When I place it into this holder, I want the weight of the candy to go ahead and sit at the bottom of the holder. That way it won't bow the sides down. So most of the weight is just sitting at the bottom. So once I have that all aligned to where I want it, I can go ahead and add some adhesive, and I'll just do that on the inside. Then I can go ahead and make sure that I have plenty of room that I'll be able to press that down. So go ahead and fold that over, and I'm just going to go ahead and attach that to the flap. And so once you have that lined up, you can go ahead and press that down and make sure that your adhesive is stuck. Okay, so this is the beginning of our little folded candy bag, and it just holds that candy in there perfectly. Next, I want to make some tags to go on the outside, and I've used the slate cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and I'll be using some white ink this time with the same configuration on my block, so I didn't have to change anything, and I'll go ahead and ink that up really well. The slate cardstock was cut from the large tag dies from Simon Says Stamp, and to stamp these it's really super easy, so just ink that up with that white ink. I'm making sure I have it lined up, and then I'll go ahead and press this down. Sometimes when you're doing some of your stamping, some areas look a little bit whiter. So to remedy that, I'll just take a little bit of paper towel and just kind of blot that up a little bit, and then this will end up looking kind of like a chalkboard. So I'll just kind of wipe that just really gently with the paper towel, and then everything smooths out. I haven't found that it has smeared any, and I have tried this quite a few times, and it works out really well. So to continue on, I'll go ahead and re-ink the stamps, and once again I'll go ahead and line that up, and I'll have just enough room to do 2 of the stampings onto each tag. By keeping the stamps in the same configuration on the block, you can go ahead and mass produce several of the backgrounds or the candy bag covers and also the tags. So once again, once I've stamped, I'm going to go ahead and blot off some of that white ink, and now it looks all uniform. To dress up my tags, I have stamped the spooky tree and eyeballs with wisteria ink. I've also stamped my pumpkin, and then I've white embossed Happy Halloween onto some black cardstock. So here's the spooky tree and eyeballs. And I've used a little bit of foam tape, and I'll just go ahead and remove some of that backing, and then I can go ahead and place it onto the tag. And I'm going to put this a little bit left of center so that I can place my pumpkin just to the right. So the top of the pumpkin is just going to cover up the little spooky eyeballs that are in that background, and just a little bit of foam tape, and I'll just go ahead and reposition that until I'm really happy with the placement. And now I can just add my Happy Halloween greeting just below. And again, I've used a little bit of foam tape, and I'm just removing the back of those pieces. And now I can just go ahead and stick that in place. To finish this off, I can write a note to the parents and let them know that I was the one that gave the candy or cookies or whatever treats that I want, and I can secure this with a nice black ribbon at the top. So here's a look at the candy bag, and it's all ready to go for Halloween. I've also used some of my other pieces to create some other tags. So I have the witch's feet and the little skeleton to create a fun little tag, and also used the letter dies to form the word boo. So I hope I've given you some inspiration on how to create some candy bags for this Halloween. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.